Well, hello, and welcome to the MilVet Podcast. Your podcast hosts are Brendan Aronson, Tim Shaw, and Beau Higgins. We are military veterans, entrepreneurs, and investors. But most importantly, we strive to empower military service members, veterans, and their families. We believe that all veterans deserve a career that fires them up, a career in which you can learn, you can earn, and you can build a world class network. On this podcast, we interview civilian and military veteran leaders who are incredible founders, writers, thinkers, and investors. My primary goal is to inspire you to achieve great things. Let's dive into today's episode. Well, hello, and welcome to another session of the MilVet Podcast. I'm your host, Beau Higgins, and I am proud and happy to be joined by Nick Kovalsky today. For those that haven't heard of the MilVet or unfamiliar with the MilVet, if you don't know, the MilVet provides executive recruiting services for veterans that are primarily trying to get into private equity and venture capital type roles. And we also support companies that are looking to hire veteran talent into private equity, venture capital, or family funded type operations roles. That's what we do at the MilVet. We also bring on interesting guests, talk about their journey from the military into the private equity or venture capital space or founder space. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Nick, for a quick intro of what you're doing these days.
Hi, Beau. Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Nick. I'm currently in Y Combinator, or I'm currently a startup founder working on AI agents for mental health. But really what that means is essentially we're working on automating all of the administrative documentation processes for substance use centers and behavioral health centers as a whole.
Got it. It sounds like it's very complicated and complex, and I'm always curious about how you got to where you got. But I think I love on the podcast kind of, start it all back with your military experience, and know you obviously served in the Army. But I was curious, what was your initial impetus to join the military? I mean, is that something you wanted to do from your childhood, something that hit you later in life? What was kind of your, why'd you go? How did it all get started?
Yeah, I actually specifically remember telling my friends that I would never join the military. So maybe a little bit different background than normal, but I grew up moving all over the place. I moved every year to I think my total moves before the end of high school was over 15. But I guess the main reason I bring that up was I kind of failed out of high school. I didn't really know how to go from where I was currently to where I wanted to be. And my sister was actually going through the process of trying to get into the Air Force Academy, which she ended up doing. But it was through watching her and watching her discipline that I started to grow respect for what she was doing. And she had mentioned over and over again that there is plenty of opportunities for me, and even inside of the specific wants or asks that I had to join the military. So it kind of naturally was I was hitting this point where I didn't know what to do with my life. I had watched a couple of David Goggins podcasts, and I had heard my sister talk to me about how many options and opportunities there truly were. So it pushed me eventually to go step foot inside a recruiter's office.
Got it. And obviously you had the Air Force influence, I guess, there. Why Army? Why not, as a Marine, why not Marine Corps? What was the draw for the Army?
Yeah, I actually started going after Coast Guard because I was very into ethics, and I thought, oh, it's not a part of traditional military or DoD. I just want to help people, and I thought protecting our nation's waters or being something like a rescue diver would be really cool, and I could see myself being morally or ethically okay with that. That was really important to me at the time. But I sat in processing period for a very long time waiting for a role. And I guess it helped me get clear on what I was really looking for. And it was just a tangible ability to go down a route of a skill set that I thought could be good to develop and could really help people and could lead to a better life for me and stability in my future family.
Got it. So you decided Army to expedite the process more than anything. They gave you the fastest choice to do that. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I had called them and they said, well, you've already taken your ASVAB. You can be gone in 3 days. I was like, I'm gone.
Let's go.
They said 16K if you leave if you leave on Thursday, it was
Come
Monday.
on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's hilarious. And how did you know what your rate was going to be when you, or your MOS was going to be when you joined? What did you join for?
I was a combat medic, so
Oh
I
yeah,
didn't know.
got it. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. And that's something that you, again, you chose that because you thought you would use that on the back end. That kind of was your vision, or was it just kind of it seemed
Yeah.
cool at the time, or was it kind of a combination of both? Or
It was more like a loose like idea that like that could lead to something good, but I was really interested in ethics at the time, and I thought that like, we've seen the like as long do no harm type stuff, like just patch people up, and I could really like resonate with the fact that there's people like in our country right now, like working class and like different socioeconomic statuses all over the map, that like we're going out there and like putting themselves in danger. And I did understand that it was like at some level to protect our like the way of life that I was experiencing, and I thought that there was nothing wrong with going there and just like at least trying to help. And that was the way that I best understood that tangibly, I guess.
well, how did it play out? What was your time like? How long are you in for? 4 years? What did you sign for? What was your commitment?
Yeah, I did 4 years active, and then I did like a year reserve period.
Got it. Was it all you? Did you be all you could be in the army, or was your time like?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting. I guess when I went in, I didn't have much background other than like my sister, watching my sister try at everything. So I was more like, I thought it was going to be very, very difficult. And I will say that the first little part for me was difficult, just coming from the background I was coming from. But I was really surprised that like how in my mind, like relaxed and enjoyable some of the experiences were. Like my first year I spent in Seoul, South Korea, working in an emergency room where I barely wore a uniform, or like after training my first year. And there are so many opportunities, I will say. It was like if you showed like agency and like you show that you like wanted to learn, like I got chances to scrub into surgeries, I got chances to take like Apache and helicopter rides like all over Seoul, or not all over, so like to do like missions, to do like extractions, and like they set up a bunch of different stuff for the people that were really trying to improve their skills. So I thought it was pretty awesome.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah, I think that's all in the military. I mean, obviously, I think it's just a meritocracy like no other. If you work hard, you are going to be successful, and they kind of tell you exactly what you got to do, right? I mean, if you do these things, you will get promoted. If you do, if you get this cutting score, if you want to do these things, this is exactly what you. If you don't do it, this is what's going to happen. If you do it, this is kind of how it works. It is. I mean, they make it easy. Now, not everybody makes it easy on themselves, but it is theoretically a pretty clear path to do that. Now, what any kind of like major highlights of your time in the Army?
Um, I don't know. I feel like comparatively to my enlisted friends, I really enjoyed the entire thing. It's kind of more rare, I think, for but I loved the like 20-mile rock marches, and I loved the like doing stuff like air assault school or going to Seoul, and like there's just so many like unique experiences. I think that like it was like, how else would I have like gotten to like throw a grenade when I was like 20 years old
Yeah.
from like a Jewish suburb, So it's like taking me out of the experiences that I was used to and putting me in new experiences is like the most interesting part, I think.
That's awesome. So what was your decision making process to leave the Army? I mean, yeah, obviously when we did 4 years, you kind of say, all right, I've seen this, I got enough, I'm ready to go. What was your kind of your mental calculus on getting out?
Yeah, I would say like for most of my life, I just like was bouncing around from one thing to another, whatever was the most interesting at the time. But I was really at that time trying to figure out like a long-term path for me forward, and I didn't really see it in the military for me. I didn't see going through like the traditional like ranks for enlisted as like something that really like fit who I was or who I wanted to be. And I didn't think extending another 4 or 5 years to go down an alternative pathway was something that I had enough security that it was going to be a good choice to like fully commit to. So I decided the thing that I really wanted to do at the time was like to get out and explore the full opportunities, and I would get out and explore becoming a doctor, because I thought that I had really enjoyed my time in the ER, and I could see myself doing that for the rest of my life, and that was the most like tangible thing that I could understand as like something that I could be happy with if I had to spend the rest of my life doing that.
Got it. No, that's I mean, it's interesting to think about that. Obviously, you had a great experience, not bad. And that wasn't anything that you like. I hated it and wanted to leave. It was like, okay, I can see where this. I've gotten some great experience, but it's time, to get to where I want to go. Maybe it would take too long or longer than you wanted to wait. Maybe in some ways to get where you
Yeah,
wanted to go in the military. That's the other thing with the military. You're true. Although a meritocracy, right? You don't get promoted any faster if you're the best guy. It takes
yeah,
time, right? So I
exactly.
think there is some of that on, okay, if I want to get out, I'm going to do it now because now I've figured out where I want to go. And how was or talk a little bit about your transition process? I mean, I assume you went through some type of a TAP process. Did you know what you wanted to do? Did you want to use your GI Bill and go to school? Or what were you how'd that transition go for you?
Yeah, so I think I was thinking about it a little differently. I was thinking I have all these resources and I have all these skills now, and I was like, how do I best use these resources to get what I want? And I thought that like there is a clear path to becoming like a physician that was laid out amongst like these resources, which was like I could take this like GI Bill and I could literally move anywhere in the world with it. Like, come on, like that's insane. I was like, I had like done like all of the research on like every zip code and like how much money I could make, and then like off the GI Bill, and then like I would like create like a map of the surrounding areas. It's like an hour and a half from this location. If I only have to go once or twice a week, I get like $4,000. So it's like, where can I live for like $2,000? That was like the ideal location for me. So I had decided that I wanted to go to California actually at one point. So I had taken my leave like a year before, and I had driven up the entire coast of California with my family, and I had like found the spot that I thought was the coolest spot of my trip, and was just decided that I was going to move there. And this is like a dual win for me because the UC like community college system like is a direct feeder into like the like higher level UC schools, which are like direct feeders into UC med schools. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's like pretty clear. I can just like move to California, get paid a bunch of money. I can live on like the beach. I can like spend my days like surfing and like going to like class and studying biology. And eventually I'll just like be what I want to be in life. So that was like how I was thinking about it.
It sounds pretty sweet. And then how'd it work out?
It did, it did not go as planned. Um, Yeah, so I guess surfing turned into kayaking. I started working as a kayak guide. That one was an interesting surprise. Community college ended up being a little more challenging than I thought, but I had gotten it down eventually. But I had some transition processes that I think like everybody's gone through. Like, or a lot of people had gone through rougher transitions. I was actually married at the time when I was getting out, and um, the showing up in California quickly led to divorce. So I was scrambled trying to figure out like how to survive on the outside world, thinking that like I understood things that like society now had expectations of me to like understand, and I just really didn't. So I was like, how to like take care of myself, pay rent, hold a job, go to school, like uh, emotionally be strong enough to like withstand like the current like feelings that I was feeling, and like knowing that I knew nobody in the area and knew nothing at all about like what it was like to take care of all these responsibilities. And there's no longer a military support system
Yeah.
whatsoever. So you're just out there.
Do you feel like though your time in the military prepared you to be successful when you got out, or not really, or in some ways maybe yes and no? I mean, obviously you made it, and you. I mean, I know the journey is always never a straight line, and yours certainly isn't what you expected, I'm sure. But like, did that military background, what did it, you know, provide for you to be successful, or to get you where you are eventually, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could ask anyone in my family. I failed out of high school. Like I had no discipline. I couldn't like do anything. I couldn't focus. I think the initial year was like the kick in my behind on what I needed for myself. I think that I had learned how to have the discipline necessary to at least show up to the thing you needed to show up to every day, to at least pay enough attention to get the thing done. And yeah, I think that was like really what I had needed at the time. Yeah, if that answers the question. And then I guess like tangible skill sets of like being under pressure, like even the initial days of like basic was like, that was so difficult for me as like a kid who like came from like only playing like video games to like put together like a rucksack and to like put together a rifle. And it was like so natural to other people, but it was like not for me. So like to know that like I could go from like stuff that like felt that uncomfortable and like being yelled at to like figuring it out and like keeping my brain calm was like something. Oh, I guess, and then I always resorted towards those days. I still do this actually. When I'm like when there's like because I'm a co-founder of a company right now. There's days where like things seem like impossible, where it's like how am I going to make it through this week? There's like too much to do, and it's like okay. I remember like when I was in aerosol school, I just like shut up, like pack everything you need for tomorrow, make sure everything's set, make sure you can like control all your controllables, and like just turn brain off, wake up next day, do it, prep, go again. So I still resort to those behaviors, which I find like very interesting. Like even from like the like small tendencies of like how I like go to bed to like how I like pack my stuff for the next day. When things get really bad, I fall back on those tendencies, like those behaviors.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, you obviously get a sense of discipline. You have, I think it instills a sense of grit inside you that you can get through anything. And you're right. It's just like keep your head down and just keep marching through it. And eventually, you'll get there. We just you can't stop. You just got to keep moving, keep moving. Don't let the obstacles slow you down. Just keep moving forward. I guess I mean, what was your you obviously were trying to get in or thought you were going to go become a doctor. That didn't actually come to fruition in the way you thought it would. I mean, how did you get to where? I mean, what happened and kind of what was there like a pivotal moment where you said, "All right, I'm doing this, but it's not going where I thought I would want it to go." And how did you get into this kind of startup founder space, which it seems to be a very different world, certainly than the world of medicine. So, was it a slow transition, or how did that kind of all come about?
Yeah. So I had gotten I thought I was going to transfer to the UC programs. Midway through, I realized that there was all these like awesome like programs to transfer to like Ivy plus institutions all over the United States for military personnel, and it was actually like more statistically probable that I'd be able to do that. So I went down that path. I found the school that I really wanted to go to. I was fortunate enough. I did everything possible to get in. I was fortunate enough to get in. So I ended up transferring to University of Chicago. And now that I'd finally made it to that goal, I was like, well, if I'm going to be a doctor, I got to do it at the highest level. So I pattern matched, like I've found like the past like 200 people that had gotten to like Harvard med school, and I had like written down like everything that they had done that I could like find online. And the like number, like I'd taken like the top 5 like most probable like characteristics that I thought would like make me likely to get into Harvard. And like one of the first one is like start a nonprofit. And it's like like run an organization with like 40 people in it. And I was like, okay, now that I'm on campus, like I have to do this. I have to get grades and I have to do this thing. And 2 things happened during this time. One is I like started to really explore like if forced to do this, I wanted to do the thing that I really wanted to do, like with the nonprofit or like sort of work that I really wanted to do. I didn't want to have to spend my time doing something that was like for a resume completely, like at least let me do a passion. And then the second one was being a veteran, I got all these awesome opportunities to like I got like a tour of the trauma center of U Chicago, like from the guy who like built it essentially, or like got it pushed through U Chicago was a veteran. So I got set up with like taking a tour of the entire trauma center and like hearing the stories of how he made it that far. And then there's a third thing that I think altered it too is now that I was back in Chicago, because I like kind of joined the military from there. One of my close friends from childhood, he was at Northwestern. He was super studying AI. He was like spamming me with like podcasts about like what the future was about to look like, and about like how it was going to affect medicine. So the combination of the three, it kind of like pushed me in a direction that I didn't see I would end up going down. The nonprofits and like initiatives that I was working on was with one of our now co-founders, Ishan Dasani. We were working on mental health initiatives where at first it was like kind of like work similar to like what I was doing in the Army, where I was like realizing that there's a bunch of people dying from overdoses on the street and there's a lack of resources. So we were distributing Narcan, and I was like teaching classes on like opioid overdose and opioid prevention. And those projects were really fun. So we could see like tangible like results of things that we were doing. I could see going from idea of like what we could do to like results of what we could do. And we kept scaling this. We like kept having crazier and crazier ideas and like kept making them reality. And it was the first time in my life I'd been around like people that were just like, yeah, we could do this. And then like they just like start doing it. And you're like, I had never seen like results happen that quickly. So it became very clear that like, we were talking earlier about like the military thing, where it's like it would take me like 20 years to like become this position. It was like, no, like in this world, in this game, like you could have an idea and you can just go make it happen, and you could like affect a ton of people. And it is very much like how much are you willing to go through, like how crazy are you willing to push it, like how like creative are you willing to be, and then like going out and like attempting it and then watching it happen in reality. So yeah, I'm kind of monologuing for a while, but yeah.
No, that's great. It's fascinating to hear that. And again, you're right. I think the military is not necessarily the greatest at moving quickly. Again, special forces are, but big military moves slow.
Yeah.
And again, to get promoted, it just takes time. Certainly in the founders world, in the startup world, every day. We talked about it at Amazon. I mean, Amazon's gotten big, but the idea that every day is day one, right? And you just are firing off new ideas, you're doing new things, you're throwing things at the wall and seeing what works. You're building the airplane in flight every day. That's just the mentality you have to have, obviously. And so you're doing all these things at the same time. You started a nonprofit that is scaling up, that you really found, maybe not started exactly with, I'm sure you didn't know exactly what it would turn into, but turned into something that became very personal to you and continued to scale. You're going to school, you're working with a buddy that's doing the AI thing and trying to. And how did that all? Like, what coalesced all that, or what was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a moment that hit where I had the co-founder Ishan, the one that I was working on the projects with at school. He knew that I was like working with my other friend at Northwestern on and off, or at least I was interested in what he was doing, which is like startups and building AI stuff. There's a moment that hit where we were supposed to be like spending the summer like fundraising, or like not supposed to. This is just like kind of what we did like for the initiative out in like Western Kentucky that we were working on. There was a startup competition through the National Institute of Drug Abuse for like proposal ideas on like what you could do to make a difference in drug abuse. So he had sent it to me, and we had like gotten on the same page that we were going to submit it. So I'd spent like a long time, like was working at a recovery center at this point, just to like understand the processes better. So I changed like my thoughts to spending all day like thinking about like startup ideas inside of this like space, or this like substance use center I was working at. And we eventually submit this proposal. We end up like winning the initial round, but I didn't know how to build it. I started taking like nighttime classes. I started like trying to teach myself. But my Northwestern friend, I like called and I was like, bro, you got to check this out. Like there's something here. I know there's something here. And he ended up coming into the center I was working at and examining it. He saw like the reason why I cared so much. Someone overdosed in the lobby day one. He was there. They Narcaned him. Like the original work that we were working on was getting Narcan everywhere. They were able to revive him, and he was able to. Anyways, my friend spent the rest of the day like shadowing at the center and thinking that there was like a lot of stuff that could be done with the technology that he had been working on, and he agreed that like we would all get together and we'd like sit down and we'd like talk about it. And he brought his co-founder of his like business, which was Kyle. And the four of us just like eventually just sat down and decided that we were just going to work on like exclusively like a substance use like technology company, and we were just like going to start. Yeah. So
That's crazy. I mean, it's just interesting, obviously, just having all those different worlds collide, so to speak. And again, I mean, I don't know how familiar you were with AI. Probably not a lot before you were getting into this. And it doesn't. I mean, I can obviously, I'm sure there's applications for AI and everything, but it wouldn't be the one that I would have thought of initially for maybe mental health. That I'm sure obviously there's something there, and you figured out something with that. But it's just interesting how that all comes together, and the people that are in the right place in the right time, and the opportunity strikes, and you have that momentum and kind of roll with it. Well, what was that like to kind of to get the ball rolling? How did y'all like the four of you got together and you wrote a business plan, or what was kind of the how's this
oh
work? I don't
gosh.
a lot of people that are watching these shows, watching the podcast, are either getting out and maybe want to start a nonprofit or maybe want to get into be founders. And like what's it really like, or what did you learn from the process, or maybe what would you have done differently in the process to get to where you are now?
Oh gosh. I think for me, the second I decided I was gonna do it for real, I like dropped out of school like pretty quickly. And that started like a situation where I was going into debt and I like couldn't survive. So it was like game on. Um, for context, the University of Chicago pays you extremely well to go to school and be a student. So I was like making like at least like 70 grand from the university, and like so I went from 70 grand to not being able to pay my rent like the day I made the decision. So like I guess I guess for me it was like everything was on fire. How do I survive as quick as possible? So I had started like working my way through the network of University of Chicago. I'd found like every resource that I possibly could. I'd gone to like I guess like one of my friends was like, University of Chicago, I'm sure has resources. Like, yep, I'm sure you're right. So I went to like every career advancement. I found like everything that I could possibly find. I'm sure I even missed stuff. There's so much, but eventually there's an organization called LTF. They gave us $1,000 to get the like initial like Stripe, what's it called, incorporation done. And they had started giving us like guidance and like teaching us about and connecting us to people that had gone through the past year from University of Chicago to like different places inside of the startup world. And like one of those was like one of my friends now, his name is Ben. He went to YC. Another one, Vershank, went to YC. So like I was like, this is the Harvard of startups. Like this seems to be the thing that like I've heard of people going there. Like there has to be a way to do it. We're just going to do it. But we got rejected. Like we put together a proposal. We spent like a week trying to figure out everything we needed. We had no idea how startups worked. We didn't know what a TAM was. We didn't know what a business plan really meant. We didn't know what any of it was. I guess like to answer the question, we just like eventually like realized that like the only way we were going to do it is if we just like shut up and just like spent all day every day like working on it and figuring it out. And figuring it out had consisted of different things throughout the like next like 6 or 7 months. But eventually it led to just going down to San Francisco seemed like the best option. It was like you had heard all these stories of these kids that were leaving campus. And I guess to me, they were just like stories because like I wasn't involved in the tech communities on campus. So, like I'd heard stories of like, oh, this guy like disappeared, dropped out, went to San Francisco, had funding like 2 weeks later. And I was like, okay, that's like possible. So I was in contact with my friend in San Francisco, Ben. He sent me like an accelerator called like Founders Inc. That was like, they give you no money or anything, but they just give you like a platform and like a chance and a landing pad to get to San Francisco. And like 10-15% of those companies raise funds. So if you get in there, you have a 10-15% chance of raising funds, and you're still competing with people from like probably like MIT and like all sorts of other schools. So you're like, we got in, we just like fucking dropped everything. When I ended up going $20,000 in debt to like get an Airbnb and like go down there. But it was like while I was down there that I actually met Tim from Contexter. Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to get an offer from him very early on in this process. So I went from not knowing how to survive at that point to having money to know that I would at least like be alive. Yeah.
It's a crazy. I mean, you obviously were betting on yourself. I mean that's what it comes down to, right? I mean, you believed passionately enough in the concept. You felt like you had a revolutionary or at least a unique technology in a sector that was probably underdeveloped, certainly probably still is in
Yeah.
some ways. And is it you just? I mean, you just you just knew, like, I mean, I don't know, you have to have days where like, man, am I crazy? Is this,
One of my
what am I thinking? Or you just
co-founders,
kind of knew.
yeah,
It's kind of one of those
sorry.
things where you knew if you got it in front of the right people, it it made so much sense. It had to happen, kind of thing. Or how what does it feel like? I mean, it's got to be nerve wracking, certainly for a while.
Yeah, one of my co-founders said this best during this part. He said that he doesn't think our product is probably going to be the product that makes us $1 billion, but he thinks in this team and this time is the right team and time. Um, so it was more like I was surrounded by extremely highly capable, like high agency people that were super committed to doing this thing. And it was like, we didn't even know what this thing was going to turn into yet, but we knew we were going to do something. So like, there was no idea yet. There was like no technology. There was just the four of us that were saying that we're going to build something now. And the idea was definitely like, you put the four of us in front of like the right people, and they'll know that like they'll if we are who we say we are, they will see the same thing that we see. And that was the logic I think that I was betting on. I had seen enough tangible proof that like our me and Ishan's thoughts were turning into like realities, and I had seen like my friends that were like Jesse and Kyle that were building tech that like was so far ahead of its time. So it was like the four of us together as a team that were going to drop out of school and like focus on this thing. It was like it was going to turn into something, and someone was going to see that. So that was the bet, I guess.
I mean,
Yeah,
again, it starts with the people, right? And that's what it sounds like. You knew you had people that, when
yeah.
combined, could make a significant impact to do something, even if you didn't know what it was. Which is, I mean, I guess a little bit risky, but if you feel passionate about it, obviously you did, and you jumped and made it happen. So how did it turn from even an idea you didn't know what it was to what it is? Like, what did it like? What is it? I guess maybe explain what does the tool, how that, or maybe it's morphed over time. What was kind of your initial, okay, what we're going to build is something that solves what problem, and how'd that kind of come about?
I think it started with we were going to solve a problem in mental health, and then it transformed into what is the biggest problem in mental health, and that was administrative work that was like tangible and understandable at the time. Like we were just like we were going to make an impact, and we were going to make like a ton of money doing it. It was like our thoughts, and it turned into like okay, we were watching patients like walk out of the substance use center because their like intake process was so long. It's just like we need to start, like we don't have time. So we were like we're going to automate the intake process like front to end. And like what's how do we do that? It's like okay, I can take like the conversation that's already happening and the context that's already happening, and we can put it directly into their workflow. And then Jesse like gets to the point where he's like actually like they don't have an API. Like we're actually like not allowed to like use their like endpoints. We don't have like HIPAA agreements. We don't have any of these things. We're just solving one problem after the other. That when we were trying to move so fast, we like didn't think about like what like the direction we were supposed to take. We just thought like how do we like perform actions, and eventually it like turned to the point that Jesse and Kyle had figured out a way to like create like a screen grabbing system. I don't know like the technical the like term right now is an AI agent that could essentially go through all of the aspects of an EMR and like systematically understand it. And then we could like at the time like Jerry work or like Chrome extension to like record something, and then we could take like that information and we could plug it directly into the system. Um, in doing so, I guess like what we didn't realize is that we had created something that like other people like hadn't even thought to create, it seemed like, because everyone else like thought about like the rules, which is like oh you have to like integrate with an API, and like this is like the traditional way of creating a platform like this. I think we were just like moving at a speed of like how do we solve this problem, and we ended up creating like a system that integrates with any web-based page and can put context into anything, which seems to me still very far ahead of its time. I've seen a couple other companies that are building like stuff that like makes this look like we're not the only ones, but they created something, or we as a team created something I think that is truly great, which is now we have the ability to open up an EMR, and we can, which is an electronic health record or electronic medical record, which is the system that clinicians are spending 50% of their time. We've probably all seen the clinician burnout stats. Like doing documentation in, which is like I'm gonna like talk to you, Beau, and I'm just gonna like type, and like I'm gonna spend all day like going back in my paperwork or spending my time in the system like typing. We can open up the tabs inside of it. We can take context and we can just automate like the entire thing. So like they no longer need a keyboard essentially. So we have an AI agent Chrome extension that all you have to do is press record and then press finish, and then press populate, and it can open up all of your windows, and it can just go automate all of your paperwork, including the like diagnoses or the clinical formulations. It just can do all of it now, which yeah, that makes sense.
That's pretty sweet. No, I'm not a technical guy, but I like anything that can take just a conversation and break it down and insert it into multiple different locations. Sounds like it would be a huge time savings and multiple, and just a force multiplier, and obviously allow, I'm sure, the doctors to care for more people, and it becomes a volume game, and to capture it more, so it doesn't get lost somewhere too, right? I mean, there's multiple benefits for it. And what were your first customers? Was it the hospitals themselves, or how's that work, or how do you sell this? How's that work?
Yeah. So one of the hardest part was actually getting off the ground, and we were fortunate. We were supposed to work with this recovery center where we were on track to work with this recovery center, the one that I had spent my summer internship doing, and like where we had created the idea and where we had shadowed and figured out like the internal problems. But there was a last minute like emergency where like the CEO ended up having to like go into surgery, and it was a whole like change of like command essentially inside of this organization. So we no longer had the ability to work there. So we drove up to a conference in Denver, the first conference like a week later that we could find, and we're just like, we have to convince someone on the spot to like let us get started. Like otherwise we have nothing. We can't test this anywhere. We can't do anything. Like we could sit here and like try and work on this old account. We were working on like my old like system that like I had access to from that center, which we lost like a week later. Like they had like changed over like everything, so we no longer had anything. So we had to convince someone at this conference, and we were able to do that. There's a lot of interesting tactics that went into that, but we met very nice people that were very happy at the idea that like maybe we could do this, maybe we could like automate all of their processes, and they're having tons of problems around it, and we just moved to Colorado. We just said we live in Colorado now. We're just gonna work right next to the center, and we're gonna go in when we can. We're just gonna figure it out. So we went from that, and then we started selling to substance use clinics like theirs, and we're fortunate enough to find like eventually like either network connections or referrals or other people at conferences that were mid to high tier, like mid-size to bigger size substance use clinics, some of them being like conglomerates of like 5 to 10 like locations of a specific organization. But they're like inpatient substance use centers, or like outpatient or like intensive outpatient substance use centers. Yeah.
I love it. I mean, it's your story is so great about like, I'm moving to California. Nope, we're moving to Colorado. Let's go. Like it's like you see the opportunity. It's like there's no hesitation. It's like everything seems like speed seems to have been a big part and continues to be a big part of what you're doing. Just not being afraid. Like, hey, we're going all in every time. Waiting, you can't wait for the perfect, to be there. You have to just go with what you got, and you'll figure it out when you get there. If you wait for the perfect, it never happens, I think, and I think a lot of people are afraid to jump. I mean, again, you've done a lot of jumping over time to get there, but it's obviously paid off for you in those opportunities that have grown from there. And so, I mean, has the system or the tool itself continued to morph? Or again, maybe talk about kind of what's going on now with it and where you're at, and kind of again, really, I'd love to hear some of the lessons learned. Like if you had to do it over again, what would you do differently, maybe too? I think that's important for the audience as well.
Okay, so the first one was the tool morphing. So my original idea that I submitted to the proposal was to take like the National Institute of Drug Abuse startup competition, was to take the EMR data and to use it to create like a patient matching algorithm. And we went from like figuring out that that was maybe possible to like not doing it at all to like we went all sorts of directions. And I guess we did like I think it was the question you asked at the beginning was like what was the problem you were trying to address, and I think that's been the consistent thing. The consistent thing is that like we're trying to address like the mental health concerns and like substance use centers with AI, and whatever we're gonna morph this AI thing into the thing that we think can help the most amount of people. um, and right now, like that is this administrative thing. We think it was the thing that a lot of people were waiting for, and a lot of people couldn't get it in this space. But we have a lot of very cool directions that we think that this is going now that we're live, and now that we have the ability to keep like altering it. We think we're going to create an entirely new type of EMR, and we'll have a demo. We'll release a promo video soon that will probably show that better than my words can. And there's a lot of very interesting ideas we have that I think could really impact the world for specifically this space, which I care deeply about, and that is something that is a mission of mine. That is my main focus. Is now that we're in, now that we're live, now that we have a product, now that we have revenue, now that we have investors, now that we have a platform, I want to do good. And I think that you will see that very soon. That will be my teaser. So, yeah.
That's exciting. I mean, and is it something that, and I assume you still have some connection or desire to provide this tool to the military? Is that something you've been able to do at all? I mean, obviously you saw the mental health issues, and I've seen it personally. You know, the issues that so many veterans have with mental health. Is that an area you are still, or is that somewhere you're trying to get into? I mean, I'm sure you'll go anywhere, but it'd be nice if it overlapped, I would think, right? Is that fair to
Yeah,
say?
I think it's one of those, it would be nice if it overlapped. I specifically think that they're having a problem rolling out Cerner to a lot of facilities in a way that we could specifically help with. However, like in our current stage of our company, going through the like administrative processes of like going through all of their systems, like is just not like something that I'm taking the time to explore. Um, but yeah, I think it's like, it would be nice if it overlapped situation. I would like to help in that sector. So yeah.
And is your nonprofit still a thing, or did that kind of just
Yeah.
fade
So
away?
one of our so when we went there's like two different organizations. One of them was U Chicago Harm Reduction Project that Ishan started. I guess they both got taken over by the same person now that I think about it. But when I was working with them, there was another person that was involved in all of this and was like basically like she was one of the founders and she was there about the ground floor on everything. And she's still in university and she's running them. So and
So it
she's
was.
very
I would. There seem to be a lot of nonprofits also in the mental health space, in
yeah.
some on the very like grassroots level type organizations that are helping out, like you were doing. I mean, you were doing the Narcan on the street kind of thing. Is that someone? Do you also work with nonprofits, or is your primary focus going to mental health clinics, or is it? I mean, where have you found the most success, and where do you want? Where's the future growth maybe of what you have?
Yeah, the thing that like because we're like still newer, like the types of clinics that we're getting into is like generally like an organization of like 3 to 6 like for profit but take like Medicaid and different like insurances and are trying to grow very fast and are very like used to like using technology. So that's kind of been our like primary like go to GDM right now. Um, sorry, the question was. So am I blanking on the question a little bit? Was
Oh, but is where would you like to see it go from here? I mean, you kind of know
uh
what your market is today. Is it big hospital? What's the growth strategy from where you
yeah,
are, and maybe smaller clinics that are maybe a little more technical savvy? It does seem like the medical system in general is slow. My sister works in a hospital. She's always complaining about the tools they have, and it seems to be antiquated. So, I mean, is that what you see the future, or where do you see like the future and the growth of what you're doing and how you engage the market?
yeah. So I guess for a little bit of context is I'm not the product person. Jesse, I'm sure, would have an amazing articulation of exactly where the product is going. But to me, I don't think EMRs are needed anymore. I don't think electronic health records in general like need to exist. Um, so I probably shouldn't go that deep on that, but essentially, like the reason people are putting in this information is to get insurance reimbursements and to like two purposes, like insurance money and to like track patient care. There's certainly better systems we can create to track patient care. And there are certainly better ways to communicate for insurance reimbursement, including like AI agents and different ways of reorganizing data and structuring it. So we're very much thinking on a product that allows for these things to happen. But I want to specifically focus on this space. I want to automate all of the administrative tasks end to end, so clinicians could get back to focusing completely 100% on patients and not worrying about any of this. All the tools should be to help them; it shouldn't be to distract them at all. And then the second is, I think that we can actually help people get into care. I think that there's major problems with like at risk and unhoused populations that are currently living on the street. That there's no reason we can't take some of this like funding for and to like help them, which essentially is like just for example, it's like a Medicaid average patient, depending on the center, can range between $8,000 to like $20,000, right? It only takes a $20 Uber ride to actually get them to the care, and that's like one of their biggest bottlenecks is like transportation and environments. I think the way to actually go about solving this problem is to completely like change the approach from the ground up to figure out what people need at the lowest like at their most like important like primary needs level, and then to help them and like provide assistance with technology and with like any resources. Like why not connect them to an Uber that's going to take them to a treatment center that has a clinician or an agent or somebody there waiting for them right now to get them into care, and then realize that care doesn't stop there. Care stops, like they still need to like have transition help into their environment, and now they still need to have state resources. And I think that there's so much we can do in this space, and I think it's a very overlooked problem for some crazy reason to me. I mean, it's one of the biggest problems in the world, I think. And I think that there's so much that we can do and so much technology can help. So I think we're going to probably double down and focus here for quite a little bit. Yeah.
No, I love it, and I love the passion for it, and identifying that problem, and just you got to start somewhere and start chipping away at it, So, and you've already done that. I mean, you've already taken maybe not the hardest step, but certainly you have something that is helping people to improve the process now, and it can only get better and grow from there, which is great. So that's what next? What do you want to share with the audience on what you're up to right now, and what's going on? Anything about, I mean, just, or folks that want to get, the thing I really want to also kind of have you hit on a little bit is what it takes to be a founder. Again, if you're a veteran, and to make that move. I mean, again, I'd love to hear about what's next. What do you have on tap, and where do you see this thing going? But really would like to hear your kind of thoughts on, why were you successful? So many people aren't. What has been the, what advice can you share on that front too?
Um, I think that there's like, I think you can be a founder just by like never giving up and just doing it. But I think there's three specific qualities that I've been thinking a lot about. I've been trying to like understand them tangibly. I think the first that I think is like metacognition. It's like the ability to like think about your own thoughts and to like understand that like your original thoughts are probably wrong, but like you have to try something and then you have to like think about them. And the second one is high agency. You have to just like do things. Like every time you're like sitting around and like you're not doing something is like time you're wasting essentially. So like during the day, like you like have to just like go call people. You have to just like go show up. Like sometimes we get on planes and we just fly to where our clients are. We don't even know if the sale is going to go through. You just like get on the plane and we just fly, or we just show up at the conference, or we just like try things. And then the third is like probably very high risk tolerance, I think. So like you have to like think logically and realize that like I think most people have like a tendency to like uh play like I everybody says this, I think, is just like everybody wants to be safe, but like actually there's like a huge like ratio between like how like little risk it takes to have like huge rewards, like massive rewards. And just like being willing to go through like the potential chance that something could go wrong, like puts you ahead of so many people. And you can climb like so much faster than other people if you're like willing to like take like risks that other people aren't willing to take. Because even if it like, let's say it takes like 4 failures, like, and you could do 4 failures in 5 hours, like you've just like, that path probably just like put you ahead of so many people. Like just the ability to like go through those failures. I don't know if that makes sense, but I do think everybody has like an intuition inside of them that is the thing that like they could do that's probably the best. They like they're better at that than everybody in the world. Like everybody has something they're better at than everybody else in the world. It's just like tapping into that and just like doing the things like necessary to take that skill set and to have it make an impact on reality. I think that makes sense.
No, I think it's great. I mean, I love that, everybody has something inside them. Now, I think, but your point is also well made. Like, you have a high risk tolerance, or maybe more so than most, and you've been willing to. I mean, like I said, this we talked about before, the speed that you were willing to move at to make some of these decisions and to follow your dream and to go all in. I mean, to literally go and move to California, move to Colorado. Like, I mean, that's pretty for a lot of people. I think they would not have that same level of risk, willing to take that level of risk. But obviously, to your point as well, though, with big risk comes big reward, and that's where that's the goal for a lot of the folks that want to get into this space in the first place. But yeah, you got to be willing to make the jump. You can't just sit back and wait for it to come to you. You got to go to it. I guess it's kind of part of the advice, I think. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Any other words of wisdom or things you want to share with the audience about what you're doing and what comes next? And or for veterans out there, non-veterans, anybody, what you got?
I want more veterans to do this. I think that we are uniquely capable of doing this. I think a lot of us, like, I know for the enlisted side, especially, I think there isn't enough doing it. I think that we come from backgrounds that have often forced us to be in uncomfortable environments and that had to operate and had to go against like odds that we didn't think were possible. And I think that a lot of it's grit, and I think that you can just do it. And I think that like there's been historically, and Tim and like some of the, like you guys have helped with build programs that have allowed for people to get into schools. It's the same thing with startups. There's been historically not a lot of access to the information on how to do this, but you can like certainly just do it. And like, I especially want to see like enlisted veterans that are building like technology that is going to help the world, because I think that there is so much that we could be doing. There is no shortage of ideas. There's more shortage of people that I think are willing to go through the pain to bring the ideas. And I think that you can go from anything in one lifetime to accomplishing anything you want. And, I'd love to see more enlisted veterans going through that process. So.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's some great advice, and especially from the again, I think certainly to get more enlisted veterans into the startup, founder, private equity, venture capital space as a whole. I think it's probably intimidating to a lot of folks. They don't know, right? I mean, and maybe they feel like they don't have the education or don't have but they do have it. It's there. You just got to figure out, how to turn that dream into a reality. Obviously, the resources are out there. I think you can find, to your point, I mean, I think there's so many resources for veterans out there or veteran entrepreneurs, but you have to be willing to make that first step, be willing to fail fast, learn from it, and then iterate on it. And I do think that your military experience can give you a leg up on just being, having the grit and drive and determination to not just like get hit in the face one time and quit, right? You're like, man, you're gonna get hit in the face a lot in this space. So, if you can handle getting hit in the face and still think, okay, I got to adjust course a little bit, but I'm not going to stop. I think that's something certainly that, our veterans possess, and enlisted veterans possess in spades. They just don't always have they don't know how to tap into that sometimes, or the fear or the knowledge gap maybe. And again, I think this, shows like this hopefully can inspire folks to get out there and dig into it and be successful on their own. So it's good stuff for sure. Very cool.
Yeah, if any enlisted veterans are trying to do this for real, please reach out to me. I will. I had help along the way. I'm happy to help anybody else. So, yeah.
I love it, man. Send that elevator back down. That's what it's all about, helping those folks out that are looking to get into the space. And again, there's nothing, very few ideas out there that other people haven't tried or experiences. So if you can learn from someone else and not have to make the same mistakes twice, that's always a winner. So I appreciate that offer. We'll make sure we share that out of the podcast. Well, hey, it has been a pleasure, Nick. Thank you so much for the time today. Really enjoyed getting to know you a little better and hear your story, and excited to get the podcast out there and hopefully have some enlisted veterans reaching out to you to help them on their journey in the future. Sound good?
Yeah. Thank you, Beau, and thanks for hosting it and everything you guys do. It's been a pleasure.
You're up.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. For more content, follow us on Instagram @TheMilitaryVet or on LinkedIn. Join us at an upcoming event or learn more on our website, TheMilVet.org. Feel free to email us directly at leadership@TheMilVet.org. Thank you so much and take care.